All right, so welcome to our deep dive today.
Yeah,
We're going to be taking a journey through George Orwell's Animal Farm.
very excited.
You shared your Spark Notes and a detailed synopsis,
Mm-hmm.
so we'll use those as our guide. Now, I'm guessing most people are already pretty familiar with the basic premise.
Yeah.
Animals rebelling against their human farmer, Mr. Jones, to try and create this, utopia of equality.
Right.
But the real question is, did they actually succeed?
That's the question.
That's what we're here to uncover.
That's what we're going to find out.
All right, so let's jump right in.
Yeah.
Chapter 1, we meet Old Major, this prize-winning boar
Yeah.
who gathers all the animals in the barn. And what's so interesting here is that he delivers this really powerful speech,
Yeah.
fueled by a dream he
A
had.
dream.
So tell me about this dream.
Well, it wasn't just any dream. It's a vision of a society where all animals are free from human exploitation. Old Major calls his vision animalism. And, this really lays the groundwork for their rebellion. He even teaches them a song, Beasts of England, which becomes kind of like an anthem for their cause.
It's incredible how Orwell uses that song,
Right.
Like it represents this hope, this longing for a better life.
Right.
I can see how that would be incredibly powerful, for all the animals.
Absolutely. But keep in mind, the meaning of this song is going to be twisted later on. It's a subtle detail that Orwell uses to foreshadow the coming changes on the farm.
Ooh, good catch. Good catch. Okay, so sadly Old Major dies
Yeah.
soon after.
Yeah.
But his ideas, they've already taken root.
Yeah.
So in Chapter 2, we see these three younger pigs, Snowball, Napoleon, and Squealer,
Yes.
step up to lead the rebellion.
Yeah, these three are essential to the story. Each represents different aspects of a revolution. So you've got Snowball, who's the intellectual.
Right.
He's driven by ideas of progress.
Napoleon, on the other hand, is more pragmatic. He's focused on power and control.
I see.
And then you have Squealer, the cunning communicator. He becomes the mouthpiece of the new regime.
Wow. Okay, so Chapter 3, the rebellion erupts.
Here we go.
Driven by hunger and years of mistreatment, the animals finally overthrow Mr. Jones. It's chaotic, somewhat violent scene, but they succeed. The farm is renamed Animal Farm. And this period of optimism and hard work begins.
Yes, and this is also when they established the 7 commandments of animalism. I think this is where Orwell's satire really shines. These commandments, seemingly simple and straightforward, become the foundation for their new society. And they all point to this one central idea. All animals are equal.
Right.
But as we'll see, the interpretation of that statement is up for debate.
And the debate begins almost immediately.
Yeah.
Chapter 4, Snowball and Napoleon are clashing over the future of the farm. Snowball, the visionary, wants to build a windmill.
A windmill.
He believes it'll bring electricity and improve everyone's lives.
Exactly. He represents progress.
Modernization. And the windmill becomes a symbol of that aspiration. But Napoleon, he opposes the idea from the get-go.
Which brings us to Chapter 5. This is where things take a dark turn. Napoleon, remember those puppies that he'd been secretly training? Well, they're all grown up now, and they're not cute little pups anymore. They're vicious dogs, completely loyal to him. And he uses them to chase Snowball off the farm.
Wow.
Just like that, Napoleon takes control.
It's a brutal power grab, no question.
Yeah.
And it really marks a crucial turning point in the story. From this moment on, things begin to shift dramatically on Animal Farm. Napoleon quickly consolidates his power, using the dogs to enforce his will.
So what about Squealer? What's his role in all this?
Well, Squealer becomes Napoleon's right-hand pig, so to speak. He's a master propagandist, twisting the truth to justify Napoleon's actions and discredit Snowball. He even rewrites history, claiming that the idea for the windmill was actually Napoleon's all along.
Wow, so the animals are being manipulated right from the start.
Yeah, and many of them are completely oblivious. They're so caught up in the excitement of the revolution that they fail to see the warning signs.
That's pretty unsettling. So with Napoleon in charge, what happens next?
Well, let me tell you. Well, with Snowball gone, Napoleon's grip on power just tightens. Chapter 6 paints a pretty bleak picture of life on the farm. The animals are overworked, the food rations are dwindling, and any dissent is met with swift and brutal punishment from those dogs.
It seems like that dream of equality is fading fast.
It really is. And the windmill, once a symbol of hope and progress, becomes a symbol of their toil and suffering. Orwell really drives this point home with the character of Boxer, the loyal, hardworking horse.
Boxer. He just breaks my heart. His blind dedication to the cause, his unwavering belief in Napoleon's leadership, it's both admirable and tragic.
I agree. He represents the working class. The masses who are often exploited by those in power.
Yeah. Yeah, so as Napoleon, consolidates his power, what happens to the Seven Commandments?
Ugh, that's where things get even more insidious. Those commandments, once set in stone, begin to change. In Chapter 7, we see the pigs gradually altering them to suit their own needs and justify their growing privileges.
Can you give me an example?
Sure, remember that commandment? No animal shall sleep in a bed.
Yeah.
Well, it's subtly changed to no animal shall sleep in a bed with sheets. The pigs, of course, start sleeping in beds with sheets.
That's so sly, like they're twisting the language to maintain control and deceive the other animals.
Exactly. Orwell is brilliant in the way that he uses language to highlight the manipulation and propaganda at play. And what's even more chilling is that many of those animals can't read. They have to rely on Squealer's interpretation of the commandments, leaving them vulnerable to his lies and distortions.
It's like Orwell is showing us how easily ignorance and a lack of education can be exploited. It's a powerful message, and sadly one that resonates even today.
Absolutely. And it only gets worse from there. In Chapter 8, Napoleon declares Snowball a traitor and blames him for all of the farm's misfortunes. He stages these elaborate trials where animals are forced to confess to imaginary crimes, often with the threat of violence from the dogs.
This is terrifying. It's like reminiscent of totalitarian regimes throughout history, where fear and propaganda are used to silence dissent.
Precisely. And then comes one of the most heartbreaking moments in the book. Boxer, overworked and injured, collapses. He's no longer useful to Napoleon, so what does he do?
He sells them to a glue factory.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't even think about that scene without getting emotional.
It's a brutal betrayal of Boxer's loyalty and a chilling reminder of the pig's true nature. They have no regard for the animals they claim to lead.
And what about the other animals? Do they realize what's happening?
Some might suspect that something's wrong, but they're too afraid to speak up. Squealer does a masterful job of spinning the narrative, claiming that Boxer died peacefully in a hospital.
So by Chapter 9, Animal Farm is a far cry from the utopia they envisioned. The pigs are living in luxury, while the other animals toil under their oppressive rule.
Yes, and the pigs begin to resemble humans more and more. They start walking upright, carrying whips, even making deals with the neighboring farmers, the very people they once rebelled against.
The irony is palpable. It's like they've become the very tyrants they sought to overthrow.
And the final blow comes in Chapter 10. The pigs invite the human farmers for a lavish dinner inside the farmhouse. The other animals peering through the window can no longer tell the difference between the pigs and the humans. The revolution has come full circle, ending in a regime even more oppressive than the one it replaced.
Wow. It's a bleak ending, but a powerful one. Orwell leaves us with this haunting image of the animals realizing that their dream has been completely corrupted.
Exactly. The hope and optimism of those early chapters have been replaced by despair and resignation, and that final image of the pigs, indistinguishable from the humans, serves as a stark warning about the dangers of unchecked power and the corrupting influence of greed.
Yeah, it's a sobering reminder that revolutions, even ones that are fueled by the best intentions, can easily go astray.
Absolutely. And I think what makes Animal Farm so enduring is that it speaks to something really fundamental about human nature, about our capacity for both good and evil.
Yeah.
It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about power corruption and the fragility of ideals.
It's fascinating how Orwell uses this simple, almost fable-like story
Right.
to explore such complex themes.
It is. His use of satire is brilliant. By using animals to represent human behavior, he creates this distance that allows us to see our own flaws and societal structures in a new light.
Yeah, it makes you think about how easily we can be manipulated by propaganda.
Right.
And how important it is to be critical thinkers,
Yeah.
to question what we're told and to hold those in power accountable.
Precisely. Animal Farm is a cautionary tale, a reminder that we must be vigilant in safeguarding our freedoms and that the fight for a just and equitable society is an ongoing one.
It's a book that stays with you long after you've finished reading it.
It does. It's one of those stories that reveals new layers of meaning every time you revisit it. And it sparks so many important questions.
Yeah, questions about the nature of power, the dangers of blind obedience, and the responsibility we all have to speak out against injustice.
Exactly. And it leaves us with this lingering sense of unease, a feeling that the seeds of tyranny can be sown anywhere, even in the most well-intentioned revolutions.
It's a powerful message, and one that's unfortunately still relevant today.
Yeah. Well, I think we've explored the depths of Animal Farm pretty thoroughly.
Yeah.
What are your final takeaways? What resonated with you the most?
Well, for me, it's the realization that freedom is precious, and it's easily lost.
Mm-hmm.
And it requires constant vigilance and active participation to protect it. We can't just assume that things will always get better. We have to be willing to fight for the kind of world that we want to live in.
That's a powerful takeaway, and one that I think Orwell would wholeheartedly agree with.
So to our listeners out there, if you've never read Animal Farm, I highly recommend it. And if it's been a while, maybe it's time for you to revisit it. It's a story that has the power to change the way you see the world.
And it's a story that continues to challenge us to think critically, to question authority, and to never give up hope for a better future.
Well, thanks for diving deep with us today. We hope you found this exploration of Animal Farm enlightening and thought-provoking. Until next time, keep those minds curious.